Oh, okay, wow, it's actually loud. I think we're going to go ahead and get started just because I'm not exactly sure the time, my watch is wrong, but it's well past 5:30, so 5:38 to be exact. My name is Liz Adams. I work at CRL Associates, and Maria Garcia-Berry apologizes that she can't be here tonight. She has some family issues, and I believe Terrence Carroll is on his way, but we'll let him take over as facilitator once he gets here. I just wanted to get started because we have a lot of things on the agenda tonight, and I want to make sure we give everything ample attention. So why don't we just start with our partner. Well, no, let's do this. We'll have people go around and introduce themselves quickly, because I think we have a bunch of new members. So I'm going to start the microphone with...
You got to turn it on.
Kelly. Kelly, if you'd introduce yourself, and then we'll pass the microphone.
Kelly Lead, Executive Director, Mayor's Office of the National Western Center.
Michael Samila with Family Environmental.
Ann Elizabeth Goldville, and living over in Bavaria.
Carrie Atia, Visit Denver, the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Drew Dutcher, Lyria and Swansea Neighborhood Association.
Patricia Carmody, the Colorado Watershed Assembly.
Mickey Zeppelin, Rhino and Taxi.
I'm Larry Burgess, property owner on Brighton and Catalyst.
Good evening, I'm Tim Sandoz. I'm the new Executive Director at the NWC-CAC.
Susan Aldretti, Councilwoman Ortega's office.
Emily LaPel, Councilman Brooks' office.
I'm Betty Graham, area Swansea neighborhood.
Vernon Hills, JJJ Properties, Globeville.
Paul Andrews, President and CEO of the National Western Stock Show.
Great, thank you. And go ahead.
Terrence Carroll, co-facilitator and on the board of the National Western.
And if you'll just pass it to Kelly. We'll get a report from Kelly Lead.
So you're going to hear from me later tonight, but the only update I wanted to provide tonight, and you're going to hear from Jay Rinkins and the MIG team here in a bit as well, but that contract has been signed, and so they will formally commence their work here in July on the campus placemaking. Again, you'll hear from Jay on that. The other is we are focused on the selection of our demo contractor for the campus. There was a meeting among the procurement team this week, and there's been a recommendation. So once we get that through signature, so by next month's meeting we'll be able to announce the demo contractor. And then I think at the July meeting we'll come back and talk a little bit about the demo along Brighton Boulevard, which you'll see first, as well as the interior demo work that will commence in November of this year. Those are my updates.
Thanks, Kelly. Paul.
We're in the middle of a bike there.
Yeah. You can skip over if you want.
No, that's okay. So the Western Stock Show Association. We are preparing for Denver County Fair. We have recently announced our community partner, it's Focus Points. They are receiving $1,000 towards scholarship opportunities that they can use from the Denver County Fair, so they can distribute that as they wish. They also have free exhibitor space for Comal, the Grow House, and Clinica Tepeyac that will be provided through our community partnership with Focus Points. They also have been granted some tickets for local community to attend the Denver County Fair. And so all of that is going on, and obviously we're working feverishly not only on that event, but on Stock Show and on our agreements that need to be done with the city. And so that's what we're working on currently.
And Jocelyn will be here in a little bit, so we'll circle back to her. And Liz Davis.
If you want to just pass that over there.
Hi everyone, I'm here from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and I thought it was great to hear about Focus Points. We had at our summer camps many of the Focus Points kids this year, and so it's been really fun working with them. And yeah, I encourage you to come on over, cool off in the museum, and we just opened a new exhibit called Nature's Amazing Machines. Thanks, have a good night.
That was quick.
You can just turn that one on. Or you can use that one.
Next is Susan Aldretti from the Office of Councilwoman Debbie Ortega, if you have anything. Okay. Emily LaPelle from Councilman Brooks' office, our esteemed council president. And tell him I'm disappointed he's not here.
I'll let him know.
Okay. You could have rode a bike over.
He didn't try.
So I'm here to just give a brief GO bond update, and forgive me, I'm going to be reading directly from a piece of paper because I'm nervous. So for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to explain the evaluative process that we just underwent. So recently, the External Stakeholder Committee met to evaluate projects. So the 2017 GO Bond Stakeholder Committee members included 67 volunteers from the public and city council who come from a diverse range of backgrounds and have a wide range of experience and expertise to help each committee evaluate and balance citywide needs. They represented the nonprofit, for-profit, and government sectors. They worked or currently work in areas such as finance, law and business, art and architecture, education, public safety, economic development, community engagement, healthcare, and transportation, among other areas. So the stakeholder committees were responsible for thoroughly examining capital facilities and infrastructure needs in Denver and making project recommendations for bond funding. So they made their recommendations to the executive committee, and on June 12th, the executive committee presented their recommendations to Mayor Hancock. Next, Mayor Hancock, Council President Brooks, and President Pro Tem Clark will be meeting and working together to ensure that all council members and the city are satisfied with the package. So moving forward, Mayor Hancock will announce the final list with the public the second week of July. And I just want to briefly share what projects were recommended for the Globeville, Elyria, Swansea neighborhoods. So in total, $61.4 million were proposed to fund the following projects. Swansea Recreation Center indoor pool, which will be approximately $12 million. The 47th and York Bike Pedestrian Bridge, which will be $9.4 million. The Globeville, Elyria, Swansea pedestrian connectivity improvement, so increasing and building actual sidewalks. That is going to be about $17 million, and the Washington Street 47 to 57 or 52nd reconstruction will be $23 million. So those are all amazing projects that will be improving the infrastructure and parks and recreation needs for Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, and again, $61.4 million, which is awesome. I just want to let you know if you guys have any other questions or concerns, particularly Globeville, Elyria, Swansea residents, feel free to contact our office. I'm usually very responsive. I'll be taking those. And then I have dates for the next public meetings, so I'm almost done. So our first meeting will be Monday, July 17th, and that will be an overview of the proposal from 2:30 to 5:15 p.m. At the City and County Building. The second meeting will be Monday, July 24th. That will be action taking on the bill, and that again will be from 2:30 to 5:15 in the City and County Building. And there are several other meetings that are remaining to schedule as well. That will be Mayor Council and 2 City Council meetings to discuss the GO bond. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it.
Question.
John.
Yeah, could you repeat the Washington Street? I missed that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Washington Street project is from 47th and 52nd, and it's a reconstruction. Off the top of my head, I can't give any details. I'm not terribly familiar with it, but I'm happy to get back to you.
No, you mentioned a dollar amount.
The dollar.
Oh, I'm sorry, $23 million.
How much?
$23 million.
23 million
Mm-hmm.
for Washington Street?
47 to 52nd reconstruction.
We haven't even determined the route yet.
Again,
So how did they come up with that figure?
I'm not terribly familiar with this process, and I'm happy to do some more research and get back to you on that.
Can you tell me how they arrived at those figures?
I can't tell you that because, again, I'm not terribly familiar with this process, and I'm happy to research and get back to you on
Can I
that.
see you after the meeting? because it's important to find out.
I understand. I'm reading her. She probably is more aware.
John Mikey's stepping up, so he may have an answer.
There we go.
She'll take care of it.
I believe you were in the GEO bond committee, weren't you?
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, everybody can hear me, but John, to your question, that particular project fell in the Transportation Mobility Subcommittee, in which the original amount that the mayor had asked the committee to look at that they asked, the budget range was around 500 million. And basically that number wasn't necessarily prioritized, but it was through a selection process where they looked at various infrastructure mobility plans across the city, and the subcommittee made the ultimate recommendation to go with that particular dollar amount for Washington.
So we don't actually know how much is going to be allocated to Washington Street yet?
Not yet. I mean, there's still a process. I mean, city council will weigh in on that. The mayor's weighing in on that as well. So if you do have additional questions, I would encourage you to reach out to your council person, which is Alex Brooks, to make your request known.
Well, I just want to clarify, we're in the process of dealing with Washington Street. And the dollar amount is perplexing to me because we haven't even decided, have we? Anybody?
I mean, I honestly, I would, instead of worrying about, I think that this is a celebration. We talk about $61 million that's going into Globeville area, Swansea. I think that this is a celebratory event for these neighborhoods. When you look at the amount of money that's going in to other neighborhoods across the city, I hear what you're saying. There is a current Washington Street design going forward now. You're on that stakeholder committee as well as Ann Elizabeth and Vern and a few others, but I would hate to belittle this meeting to get into the details of that because of the hefty agenda, but I'm happy to talk about those, carry those questions back to the...
I'm going to jump in right here because I think there's still going to be a series of questions that probably can't be answered by anyone in this room. And I think Emily listed a series of meetings related to the GEO bond that folks will be able to attend to get the answers that they need, but I do not believe that we have the appropriate folks in the room to answer the question. And then rather than have everyone get frustrated by not getting answers to questions that they have, I'd rather encourage you to go to the GEO bond specific meetings, AE.
Should I use the mic?
Yes.
I just want to, partly to framework it, the GEO bond isn't exclusive to other funding, just so we know that, just to make that real clear. Because it is true, we don't know in the long scope of things what Washington Street is going to cost, but I agree it should be celebratory, but I think it's okay to ask deeper questions too, so that there's several projects like that. East 47th Avenue Safety Pedestrian Bridge already has some committed money from CDOT in the tune of something like $2.5 million. So there just has to be a sketch sometimes. It's certainly going to exceed $23 million to do what we need to, and I don't know why it doesn't say East 45th to 52nd, but that's another discussion. So anyway, I just want to encourage people to know that that is one source, and there's probably going to be multiple sources to many of the projects. So we do need to optimize our visions with that optimism. So,
anyone else?
One more comment, just please.
Of course, I defer.
Okay, I understand the game of checkers, I guess, that you're playing. But, and I agree it should be celebratory. But 5 years from now, I don't want to wake up with a hell of a hangover on Washington Street. So as long as that's understood, that we've been working on this for some time now, and people are working hard at it. So we're going to have to make some connections here somewhere pretty quick.
And that's a point well taken, and from what I understand, the City Council and the administration are committed to making sure the information gets out there. And so before the night's over, I'll ask Emily again to raise those dates. And also I will have Liz send the dates out of any public meetings to the CAC email list regarding the GEO bond.
I would,
Hello? Anyway, I just want to bring one thing up in reference to the Washington Street project. There's no secret about my passion about Washington Street. But anyway, also carrying it forward, this is nothing to be sneezed at here. This is a funding that I think is one of the largest projects for the Globeville area specifically that is being put forth in the whole time that I've been involved in Globeville, and that's been close to about 35 years. What I would like to ask is for additional support, similar to the support that we put together for the railroad purchase and movement, to get that into the city council and the people that are going to be helping us move forward with this funding, so that we can be sure that we will be allocated the $23 million and then maybe able to find additional funding to do all the things that we'd like to do there. So I would like to go on record to ask for, to put together some type of support letter from the CAC and all the business leaders located in this room to assist us in making sure that City Council understands that this isn't just for the National Western. This is something that's also for the community of Globeville area, Swansea. I think with the connectivity and everything that's going to be taking place here, it's going to affect positively a lot of the different neighborhoods in this area. And I would love to see everyone pull together behind it, business owners, the neighborhood organizations, and anyone that can help make sure that City Council understands that we need this project. We need the infrastructure. We need the drainage issues that are going to have to be addressed to do this, because we don't have the drainage that we need throughout this area. So there's a lot of positive things that are taking place here with this money and with this project that as we move forward will help everyone. And it's not just for the National Western, it's for the entire community.
Thank you, Vern, and Susan.
I just wanted to kind of put an exclamation point on what Vern is saying, because other neighborhoods throughout the city who did not get the projects they desired in this process are flooding the city council. I can't tell you, I've probably had 300 or 400 about why Colorado Boulevard and Bucktail needs to go over other projects. So it's important to not just sit back and say, oh, we're one of the recommended projects. You need to take some action to make sure you stay a recommended project.
And just to put like an exclamation point smiley face on it, I guess. OMG, I don't know. I'm just feeling like a teenage girl right now. I'm going to ask Vern to actually kind of take charge on kind of get the concepts of what should be in that letter and get it over to Liz, and we'll figure out how to massage it a little bit more, and we'll bring it back for this committee to look at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Michael.
Just to, I guess, add to all of that, Family Environmental has been working for the last 4 or 5 months now to really develop a workforce development program, specifically for these surrounding neighborhoods. So I'd like to bring more detail to the council soon. And I think in the next month or two I can provide some more information on that. But we could also use probably everyone's help here to get that going and built properly.
Thank you. And we'll move on now to some follow-up issues from past meetings. And I'm going to bring Erica Martinez up from the Office of the National Western from the Corral to introduce our next presenters.
That microphone.
Right now.
Mike, grab the one from in front.
There's a button you can push, I think.
No, she did. It didn't work.
You can have mine.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Last month, we briefly talked about the branding process that the National Western Center is going through. And so today what we did is we actually have asked a few of our team members to come and discuss the process and some of the survey results that we have gathered and that are helping influence the creation of the branding for the National Western Center. So I'm going to ask Eli Gerson from DNI Creative to come up, as well as Carolyn Wagner from CIG. CIG, as you all know, is our consultant for communication and marketing for the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, so they've taken the lead. But I also want to mention that this has been a process that we have worked collaboratively with our partners. So we do have a committee of communications and marketing folks. We've got the National Western Center staff on that committee, as well as CSU's communication person on that committee, myself, Marcy is on there, Michael Sapp is also on there, and then we also have invited a few of our partners who are experts in branding to also participate and help us through this process. So I will turn it over to Carolyn, and she'll be able to walk us through that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Wagner, CCO from CIG, and just to inform you, CIG is a PR and advertising firm. It's been there for 12 years, and CIG and DNI have been asked to work on this project together on the brand evolution of the National Western Center. So we're really excited to share a little bit of the research to bring you up to date and to walk through these pieces for you. Julie, our strategic manager, has done all this wonderful work. Unfortunately, she is not here to present this today, so I'm in her place of doing so. And so there we have it. This project has been started since June, and it goes on until October. So glasses. So we just want to quickly give an overview of the brand development and our overview on the research at this point. So our shared vision, and I'm just going to repeat this, is where we net it out, is to be the global destination of agriculture and heritage of innovation. And our shared mission, most importantly, is to convene the world at a National Western Center to lead, inspire, create, educate, and entertain in the pursuit of global food solutions. How we evolve on this research and to get to that brand evolution, is we really look at some guiding principles. And what we found that were really strong key factors, and I won't go through all of them, but community and neighborhood integration, huge. Celebrate Western heritage, inspire health and wellness, be pioneering, breaking trails and foster innovation, key. Embrace an ethic of regeneration. We also have grow local, regional, and global intelligence, and to create fun and entertaining experiences and build cultural crossroads. So again, from these core principles, we can work further from our research in developing the brand. So what we really want to look is, what do we want to do with this brand? How do we explain this? So through this, we look to represent our mission and vision, which we just discussed, to a new redeveloped site. We want to increase awareness locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. We want to speak to a broad and diverse group of stakeholders. And we also want to really inspire companies and individuals to engage and partner with the site. So a quick little overview on our branding research. We started our research from a lot of studies, plan reports, and on the below factors, what we really looked at these different resources here, we found that the National Western Historical Prevention Final Report was really a key report that was from the retreat. And what we looked at was, we really were looking at what were the wants of what National Western Center wanted to become. And from that report, we could really work further on maintaining our focus on this research. We also looked at the global and Elyria Swanson neighborhood plans, key for our community, and along with video collateral, including internal, external community materials to look at what you have in the past and how can we, evolve this brand further. So we looked at, and we had feedback from 385 individuals familiar with the site. Almost half visited the site recently. And from this, we sent out 327 survey responses. We've got that. And what we did to get this feedback and research for this is we sent to Visit Denver. We sent out with several of the 1,000 peoples for the distribution list. We also visited the National Western Stock Show through their volunteers and members participated. And the NDCC also distributed over 2,500 collectives and we received distribution from their community as well. Type of respondents, we found that 42% of our respondents was community members, which was a really high percentage, and we're really grateful for that. So our interviews, we also continued and did 13 one-on-one interviews, including representatives from our partners and community. So target audiences, again, interests of the local community members. So why do they care? This is what we're looking to find out. How do they want to engage with the National Western Center? And we found, A, they want to revitalize the local community. They definitely wanted to improve site connectivity, accessibility, provide educational opportunities, create jobs, offer year-round activities and events, improve local amenities, access to fresh food, clean up the site, river, etc., expand the tax base, and address concerns related to gentrification and construction impacts. The other thing we found in the research is, again, target audience, they want to, for regional, national, and international. So the interests do overlap a little bit, but again, showcase Western culture, educate about the future of our agribusiness, attract conferences, symposiums, etc., attract thought leaders, expand tourism, recruit new business, increase exposure of National Western Stock Show, and connect Denver on a global scale. So we're looking at our creative considerations, our key themes. So out of this research and how we ranked it was what came out the most, the constant, and that's how we ranked it from the top. So what we found is A, balance the spirit of the West and the history of the site with future focus on innovation, technology, and food security. The next thing is maintain authenticity, key, no Disneyland. Build on a strong sense of regional pride in our history and our strong agriculture industry, showcasing the benefits and uniqueness of Denver and surrounding region. This, again, was really, really strong. Another thing we found was be action-focused, representing a vibrant, dynamic, complex, multi-purpose, connected, collaborative learning environment. Again, vibrant kept on coming up. We found that they want to represent inclusiveness, collaboration, and accessibility. Be culturally sensitive to local communities. And this, again, is huge for all parties involved. So the next part, what we look at is on the creative considerations, let's look at currently what the site is displaying and what we got as feedback. So we found that through our research, they found it historic, nostalgic, charming, weary, decrepit, old, but it also really wanted to go back to authentic, honest, and grounded. So there's some really good key attributes in here that we want to enhance. So if we take the current site and we move it over to the future site, this is what we come up with, is it wants to be vibrant, it wants to be active, inclusive, dynamic, engaging, friendly, accessible, modern, innovative, state-of-the-art, visually appealing, historic, and true to its roots. Again, key to being authentic. So we really want to come and bring into this amazing place for a brand evolution and then really go further with what our findings have been. So creative consideration, some of the challenges. Number one, volume and diversity of stakeholders, groups, and interests. Community members, stock show, attendees, exhibitors, students, farmers, research, agriculture businesses, entertainment, seekers. So again, we have a lot of people with a lot of core different reasons of what they are looking to get out of this in building this. We're also finding balancing the nostalgia for the past with the vision for the future. It's key to come up with that fine balance of the past, of the authenticity of what Western is now, and how do we move forward in maintaining some of that. Again, so that brings us to authenticity. Representing the agricultural industry in a modern sense, highlighting the modern technology aspects of the industry, making the identity of the site relevant both locally and globally. This again came across anywhere from across the street to across the globe. How can we interrelate both of those? What we also found was no consistency in feedback concerning on colors or images, even to the point of, do we have a cowboy, do we not have a cowboy? I mean, we couldn't get any congruency with that. So again, we want to take it back, and it's key to bring it to the brand promise. So the National Western Center will offer a vibrant, dynamic, accessible, educational, and entertainment environment in the heart of Denver that celebrates our Western heritage and leads research and collaboration efforts to solve global food solutions. So this is what we focused on really diving in to get to the research. So the next part in the evolution for the brand evolution is we take this research and then we start working with D&I. And so from this research, they can really hone in from digging deep of what are those key elements and how do we start displaying this new brand evolution in a way that it can be really heard and seen from all. So from this part, I'll hand it over to Eli and he can walk you through that part.
Thank you. Okay, as Carolyn said, my name is Eli Garrison. I'm with D&I Creative. We're a brand and product agency here in Denver. We've actually been here since the early 70s. And over the past decade, we've had the opportunity to work with a number of city agencies and very fortunate to work with the National Western Center. So what I wanted to show you today is a little bit of a sample or a taste of where we're now taking a lot of this strategy and a lot of this research that was just presented and showing you how we can start to transform that into some external language. And ultimately, that's going to then affect where we go with the brand refresh of the National Western Center, from identity, language, color, photography, how that's going to look on the website, how it might look on signage, really anywhere that one of our constituents or users might engage with the National Western Center. So what I'm going to show you today is just, like I said, a sample. It's one option, an idea that we're pursuing along with other ideas that will ultimately get us to that brand refresh. What you're looking at here is essentially a culmination of a lot of what Carolyn just presented, including an overview of the National Western Center. I'm not going to read that. It's kind of very much a summary of what you just saw. Excuse me. Also, our brand promise. And then what we start to do is interject these personality traits: vibrant and dynamic, inclusive and accessible, engaging and friendly, modern and innovative, state-of-the-art, authentic and historic, and true to roots. So we start utilizing some of this language to then instill what this might look like and what this might feel like. So let's take a look at some potential language here that we could use on an external basis that really sets the stage for what the National Western Center is all about. Here we're utilizing the tagline, "Where Heritage Meets Horizon." And I'll go ahead and read this. Since its early days, Denver has been a vibrant crossroads of ideas and culture and the pioneering spirit of something more. Adventurous heart meets resourceful know-how. Cutting-edge development meets rustic livelihood. Wild innovation meets proud tradition. This convergence of hardworking values and big idea vision has long inspired the desire to chase the horizon together. The National Western Center brings together global thought leaders, curious students, and local community at an intersection of agriculture, education, and entertainment. My voice keeps cracking, I'm sorry. This first-of-a-kind hub of diverse perspective and common cultural interest continues a long tradition of pioneering spirit as Denver leads the way in food solutions. So you can start to see how we are starting to inject some of that promise into the language, how we might communicate this to our external audiences. Like I said, this is just one direction, trying to give everyone here a sense of where we could be going and give you guys a taste of what that might look like. Ultimately, this is going to then translate into a total brand refresh, like I said, including logo, including website, signage, brand guidelines, and the sort, and all of that should be concluded at about the end of October. So, I think we can open up to Q&A.
Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Is discussion
thank you.
limited to questions?
It's limited to questions or comments within the framework of what they presented. Does that sound literally enough?
Oh, that sounds totally useless. I'd like to...
That was awesome.
First of all, I appreciate the hard work, and I know this. Here's my hope. I don't quite know how these things work entirely. I want to just express a desire that you not limit what you integrate to the situations where people were able to just choose one word for the characteristics. Because I saw some things that people put in that were pretty amazing. And I know there has to be some kind of an institutional process to get to some kind of institutional branding, but I'm concerned about these either-or things, even about the comment we couldn't get a yes or no on a cowboy. I mean, of course there should be cowboys in this, but there should be all kinds of other, there's lots of different types of cowboys, and there's cowgirls, and there are people that dealt with all aspects of agriculture before the Western cowboys and cowgirls were here. But I'm just really concerned, and heritage, heritage, I want us to be careful about that because it's got a property-based thing as opposed to cultural sometimes. So nothing right or wrong, but I'm just, where's the creative engagement in the broad scope? And this is a fast process. So this feels kind of institutional to me. And there's just kind of a knot in my gut feeling like I understand that direction, but there's something missing in the kaleidoscope or something.
I totally appreciate your feedback on that. And I will say that was the response that we got from people on cowboy or not cowboy. But I think what we really need to do, and it's our due diligence, to really honor, as you say, the heritage. And we really need to see what does that feel like, what does that sound like, and how can we represent that from that heritage. So with your comment, I totally respect that. And in the back of our mind and fields, we're holding that. We're holding that. We have to do the due diligence of presenting that and holding the authenticity of the heritage and yet bringing it forward to where it's going. So I'm understanding what you're saying, and yes, we're holding that. If that makes sense.
Mickey.
I appreciate what you've done, and I'm a little concerned about all the emphasis on food. I mean, food is a key part of really what the National Western is about. It all seems to be ending in food. We're really talking about, at least my vision, is sort of new values and really a much broader kind of thing. If we're pioneering, we're really looking at how we change the world. And that's been the vision that I thought we started with. And I think we're getting back to a little bit of what the National Western has always been, which is a sort of really concentrating or focusing on food. But food is only really the element that or the catalyst, and I would hope that we could expand that.
Absolutely, I hear you, and that's the part of the innovation, and how do we bring those other factors to the forefront and give, representation to the heritage, and that's the fine balancing act of looking at the heritage and bringing innovation and bringing all the different compartments that we really want to build off of this. So yes.
Tim, and then John.
Just
Oh, it is working.
It's working.
Yep, it's working.
It's working. It was. Now,
How about we just go with a loud voice?
Okay.
I'd just like to understand some of the process between now and October. Starting from October, what will you be bringing back? Will they be a series of recommendations, a recommendation? And then what kind of interaction between now and then would you have with the community and others that are involved, kind of reporting back and forth to get through the workflow process?
I think I can answer a part of that question, and then I might hand it off to Kelly to finish up. Ultimately, what we're going to be doing is working with the stakeholder group to present. This is, like I said, one idea. We have other ideas that we're going to be working through, iterating upon. But it's ultimately going to get us to some new identity, new visuals, and new language that we can work with. In terms of when that is then shown to the CAC, Kelly, I don't know if you want to interject on that one.
I think my guess would be, as I understand the updated schedule, is that from the words that you've seen today, there's obviously, most of us think about branding, a logo, but the words have to be linked to an image or imagery, and then ultimately how those things all come together. So just as we've done on other things, I think that as this evolves, we will report back to this group with some imagery, some color palettes, and it'll be iterative just as we're going through it in an iterative way. But the goal by October, as we prepare for demolition and ultimately the big event on November 3rd, which is the demo day, which is the 2-year anniversary of 2C, is to be prepared to launch the selected logo or brand for the National Western. And again, let's draw a distinction between the brand for the campus versus we're not doing anything to CSU's brand or the National Western's brand. Those are standing brands that become part of this tapestry of the campus. So this is solely focused on the campus and what the campus represents. So my guess is we'll come back as we go through this over the course of the next several months with an idea to launch the website in November.
And I appreciate that description. I think one of the best things that has been happening in these communities is kind of a national civic league, go slow to go fast methodology. We go slower with the interaction and working back and forth with the community and others. That means that your sale time on the end is very, very quick because everybody's already been involved, rather than trying to put it back. And so that coordinating back and forth so you get Nikki's comments and other people's comments, I think one of the greatest values of what we're seeing out of this in the committees.
That's very important, and one of the reasons why we want to be showing this now is because when you do start to see some of those visuals and some of the identities, is that you're going to understand how everything that we've shown here today, it's all going to be supporting those ideas. You're going to have an understanding of where they're coming from. Ultimately, everything that we want to create is coming from a strategic sense of mind. So that's why all that research is so vitally important.
And I thank you because I'm farther behind. I'm in my 4th day. Everybody else probably knows a heck of a lot more than I do. But
sure.
I appreciate the process and the interaction.
Thank you.
John, and then we'll come back over this way.
I guess I need some clarification. As I understand, this process will end in October.
Correct.
And then you'll deliver your ultimate finished product.
Correct. So in October, the entire brand
At
refresh
that
will be
point,
done.
now, please correct me if I'm wrong. I conceive this as being an ongoing, living process, I guess. It's not final, and that's the end of it. I see this rendition you presented today as a wonderful opportunity for a lot of these things that we've talked about for years. And please correct me if I'm shooting off on the wrong tangent, but I see this as a great opportunity to partner at different levels with whoever's involved. We're not just talking about food, and I agree with Vicky's concern is. And your concept about the cowboys, vaqueros are a great part of our culture and history. And I don't think that we can afford to lose that. So cowboys, yes, But I see this as, and please correct me, as a wonderful opportunity for ongoing information, education, gathering and dissemination, and the whole process of living, which food is important. Is that, am I shooting too far off on a tangent, or?
No, I don't think you are, and I think some of us who are intimately familiar with the history of the American West would argue with you that when we talk about certain things regarding the West, and I think AE raised this, it's more than just cowboys. For instance, there would not be cowboys without the vaqueros. And those are some issues that we actually...
They're the same.
They're one and the same, but I'm saying the traditions of what we call the American cowboy are really traditions of the vaquero in many ways, but I went off track. We'll go to Michael. I'm just saying I agree with you.
I think I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else? All right.
If I can, just to put a point, and John, I think you're spot on, is that both the challenge and the opportunity here is ultimately you do lock in some imagery, some initial imagery that begins to create that sense of place. But the exciting part about this campus, when you look at so many of the words, they're very action-oriented, dynamic, vibrant. They're all about moving forward, that journey. And so the storytelling part of this is you and Mickey, you're spot on. There's a whole series of stories that spin off once we lock in what I'll call the initial imagery of the campus. But the campus is going to evolve, and what it looks like today versus tomorrow versus 5 years versus 10 years from now will evolve with it. But the story, what we're really trying to do is set up the right context for telling all the different stories that can converge on this campus. And that really, we really rely on the brand professionals to help us kind of guide our thinking that gets into color and color palettes and all the kind of technical aspects of branding that solicit or elicit responses that hopefully are positive about what the story we're trying to tell. That make sense?
Good.
Okay.
Well said.
Works for me. Anyone else? Betty?
Doesn't this have to be done on a consistent basis, Doc? As we go along, but day by day, as it happens, it has to be done very consistently. It can't be left to look at later. It has to be done.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Whatever we do here with branding, in my opinion, I can't speak for the professionals, but I hope they would agree with me. I mean, branding, as I learned as a politician, is an ongoing process that has to be sustained, and you can't let up on it. So I completely agree.
Yes. Everything that we're looking at today and what we're striving to get to for October is very foundational. It gets everything started. We're going to set up those elements which will be consistent across the board. However, that does not mean we're limited to growth. It doesn't mean we're limited to expansion and evolution. And that's part of our job, is to determine what are those pieces which will be consistent and where do we have some flexibility to expand. And that's what some of the best brands in the world can do. They're not stagnant things, they're living things. So we'll have to continue to build upon them and grow upon what we're building here today into October.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on to an update on Delgany, I can't even say that today, on the Delgany study with Kelly, I want to welcome back Jocelyn. I just want you to know that you and your family are and were in our thoughts and prayers. And so if you want to give your update now, you're more than free to.
Sure. Thanks, Terrence. And thanks to those of you who reached out. I really appreciate your thoughts. It just shows how much this group has become a family over the course of the last however many years we've been getting together, 3.5, 4,
2013.
So very much appreciate that. Just a few, thank you, a few updates since I saw you last. I think many of you know that we brought on Icon Venue Group as CSU's owner's rep, and they're helping us get all of our ducks in a row when it comes to construction management. And so it's likely that you will see them here at meetings here and there as appropriate, or maybe hear from them with updates on CSU specific progress. I did want to mention a few things. I think probably Paul mentioned the Denver County Fair, which is coming up, and that I'll just highlight that Extension and 4-H will be there doing some urban farming lessons and various other activities, so please do come to the Denver County Fair. I will also mention that in September, this is coming a ways away, but I want to give you some time to think about it. I don't know how many of you have come up for CSU's Ag Day in the past, but this year will be the first year that Ag Day and the home football game happen in our new stadium. So please do think about coming up for the game for our giant barbecue. Speaking of food and food systems, and all the pieces that the National Western is about are reflected a lot in Ag Day, so please do come up for that. I think you probably saw also that CSU has hired the former Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Tom Vilsack, and his wife Christy to be special advisors on the National Western Project. And they, particularly Christy, because her focus is on education, is really thinking about a lot of the outreach components that we talk about in these meetings. So she is really going to be helping us think through what the strategy should be around outreach and education. We've already started meeting with Bruce Randolph and with Swansea Elementary, and we'll be meeting with Garden Place as well to sort of understand what the schools in at least our immediate vicinity at the National Western are interested in, and hoping to identify some strategies for CSU to meet some of those needs as appropriate. So I'm really excited to have both of them on board. They bring a lot to the table, big picture thinking, connection to resources and other folks who have done similar projects around the world. So having their thinking at the table is going to be great. And it wouldn't surprise me also if you saw them, or particularly Christy, at one of these CAC meetings as well. The last thing I'll mention is that CSU, Denver Water, the Office of Economic Development at the state, the Colorado Water Conservation Board, and the Open Water Foundation have launched a series of 3 events that are called tap-in events. And I don't know if you all have been to sort of pitch events, or you watch Shark Tank, where entrepreneurs are pitching their new invention or new idea, and then they're looking for people to invest in it. This is sort of the opposite of that, where we have people who use water, and that can be either a municipality or an organization or a farmer, an agricultural organization. The people who use water saying, hey, this is the problem we have. Entrepreneurs, can you solve the problem? Instead of saying, here's a solution in search of a problem, which is sometimes how those pitch events feel. So we are doing 3 of those. The first one was in Denver last week. We'll have one in Fort Collins. We'll have one in Grand Junction. I can send you all some information, but they're pretty fun events, and they're a chance to kind of understand some of the conversations that we're hoping the Water Resources Center can eventually host at the National Western, where we're connecting people who actually have issues that are connected to these big global food problems that we are talking about, and the folks who might legitimately be able to solve them, so that we can foster that connection and continue to have a bunch of ag innovation and food systems and water innovation coming out of the Front Range. So I will send to Liz to get to you the information on the next 2, one's in Fort Collins, one's in Grand Junction. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. We're going to go back to our regularly scheduled schedule and go back to, oh, by the way,
What does that mean?
it may have been. We'll blame you.
Blame me.
Jocelyn just gave me an idea about the whole pitch thing. Starting next meeting, if you have a question to ask, you have to pitch Liz in advance of the meeting before you can ask a question or give a comment. How's that work?
How long you think that'll last?
No.
There's your answer.
I am an unwilling participant.
There's your
in that.
answer.
We're going to hand it off to Kelly for a Delgany update.
Great, thanks. So I'm here for representing Eric Sheffrin, who has been the lead for us on the Delgany. And again, as a reminder, the Delgany is about the 2 large pipes that sit on the bank, east bank of the South Platte, that run through a good portion of the National Western. And the effort has been one, again, around collaboration with, in particular, Metro Wastewater, since those pipes belong to them. But I'm just going to read from Eric's notes here. So since he reported last, the study is essentially complete. They're compiling the final report. And that was done, and it's been done by AECOM, which was selected to help us through this. The team is finalizing their analysis on the floodplain impacts. I know Eric talked about that a fair amount last time he was here on the various riverfront alternatives. and confirming that none of the proposed recommendations negatively impact the floodplain. Some of the recommendations that will come out of the report that we're anticipating is that the scenario envisioned by the master plan, so if you go back to the adopted master plan for the National Western, the assumption was to bury the pipes in place. So literally cover them over and bury them in place. So that scenario that was envisioned by the master plan, the berming, is not feasible and negatively impacts the floodplain. It is technically feasible to move the Delgany interceptor pipes, and the preferred location is underneath the new National Western Drive. So if you go back and look at the picture here, the intent is to build a new National Western Drive away from, or a little closer to the river, and then the pipes could go under that roadway. The preferred alternative associated with the Metro Wastewater alignment for the Delgany interceptor pipes affords the National Western partners the greatest flexibility in the redevelopment and rehabilitation of the riverfront open space, which is again also a goal of the urban Army Corps of Engineers around the ecological restoration of the river. So this idea of allow the river to breathe, essentially, right? And so pulling those pipes back allows that to start to happen. And then separate and apart from moving the pipes, we're also exploring as part of this report the sewer heat recovery. So the Metro Wastewater has a heat problem in these pipes that has to be removed before the water ultimately heads back into the Platte. And so we're, again, in collaboration with them, studying the feasibility of capturing some of that heat that could potentially supply the campus with up to 95% of the heating and cooling needs for phases 1 and 2. So it's not insignificant about what that could do. So it helps Metro Wastewater, and it also provides an innovative solution for solving some of our energy needs. All recommendations confirm the technical feasibility of both moving the pipe and using the sewer heat recovery. So what are the next steps? These recommendations must be tested by the program team. So as these recommendations have emerged, CH2, which again is our program team, is now evaluating them based on scope, schedule, and budget. What does it do to the overall delivery of the program? And make sure that those recommendations are consistent with the details and logistics of the overall planning for the design and building of the campus, including, again, budget, schedule, and scope, phasing, and the technical performance measurements that will be required. And then also continue to work with Metro Wastewater, who've been fantastic and a willing partner to potentially partner on the relocation of those pipes and capture this heat recovery out of the pipe. So that is likely to require an interesting and creative funding solution, which we will need to do in partnership with Metro Wastewater, again, since they're their pipes. So when the report's done, obviously we're going to bring the full report back to this group, but the work that the team has done is affirming some of the things that we knew were possible, and making us feel more and more confident that now we can start to look at how we actually pull it off. Okay?
Drew.
So Kelly, as I remember in the master plan, this was kind of a wish that we could move the pipes, and we kind of deferred it, not assuming that. And it was always about the cost. It was deemed to be very high. So is this now moving them? It looks like you're moving them quite a ways, but is cost an issue? I mean, is that something?
Cost continue. Yeah, I mean, but obviously we know a lot more today than we knew in 2015 when we adopted the master plan. So in essence, we kind of punted it at the time of the master plan around these pipes because we just simply didn't have enough technical information to determine whether we could do it. And at that point, we hadn't even partnered with Metro Wastewater. Those conversations had just started. So now, fast forward to today, we now have enough information to, I think, make an informed decision and recommendation. We still have to solve for the funding, but we think there's a solution if you marry up both the movement of the pipe and the use of sewer heat recovery. There's a way to finance that. So now we'll be able to take that next technical report and start looking at how you might finance both the movement of the pipe as well as the use of the heat out of the pipe.
So it's kind of an enhancement of what We're going.
Very much so. I mean, if you go back to, again, the adopted master plan, we said we're going to put dirt over the pipes and call it a day. Well, none of us were satisfied with that. I mean, I think about all the conversations we had during the master plan, and none of us were satisfied. So the good news is that the work that's been done since then affirms what our desire was and starts to lay out a technical approach to pull it off.
Vicki?
I don't know much about sewer pipes, but is there an opportunity here, since we'll be expending this money, making a major change, to come up with something in new technology that maybe improves the flow or the cleanliness or some aspect of sewer, something that Metro can add to this instead of just moving what's there, but basically creating some significant change, which I think could help in the public acceptance, in the financing, all of that.
So, Mickey, obviously I'm not going to speak for Metro Wastewater, but I think those have been very much the kinds of conversations that Metro Wastewater also wants to have. I mean, their world as a municipal provider of a service is also changing, and I think they want to be recognized as an innovator. So absolutely, I think but this is the building block. The report really starts to build the case study for how we got to get the pipe moved, we got to pull heat recovery, and there are other opportunities that might emerge. And I think that'd be a worthwhile conversation with Metro Wastewater about what some of their ideas. If you read their strategic report as an example, which is online, there's a lot of forward thinking about their business and how it's evolving and how they can be a greater contributor to the better good, I guess would be the way to say it, as opposed to just a big giant utility that's heating or cooling or moving sewer waste and processing it. So yeah, I think you're spot on about what they want to do as well.
Anything else for Kelly?
Because I've exhausted my expertise on
this topic. So we've kind of met Tim already, but Leslie's going to introduce Tim further as the new Executive Director of NDCC.
Everybody, good evening. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Leslie Leon. Okay, you wanted to use the microphone. Use the microphone. Good evening. My name is Leslie Leon. I am the Communications Director for the NDCC, and it is my pleasure to introduce our new... Okay, no?
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. We got it.
You're fine.
You have to move a little bit that way.
There you go.
Okay. Here?
Yeah.
Perfect. Again, let's restart. I think we get it right. It is my pleasure today to introduce our new agency leader, Mr. Timothy Santos. He is on his 4th day, so please, not as many questions as you have with Kelly. I think he is, as you understand, coming into this new agency can be overwhelming, but so far in the 4 days, the team has seen a great and hopeful attitude from him as we throw all the information that we can. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Timothy Santos.
I promise not to be long-winded, and if you believe that and you don't remember that I was once an elected official and once you give us a mic, we don't shut up. I am so pleased to be able to step into this role and work with a team that's already done marvelous work up until now. And we've only got more things to look forward to and what we can do. A little bit of history and background. 1989, my good friend Harry Lewis and I co-chaired the first major bond election in the city and county of Denver. City council told us that we could try for $17 million, maybe 20. We did $242 million and passed them all, with $36 million coming to the National Western. And I was proud to say, working with Chuck Sylvester, Pat Grant, a whole group of people, that we really were able to go around and enjoy the opportunity to talk about the National Western, what it brought to the community. And so I think we have that same opportunity again. Part of my history was working with King Soopers in new land acquisition for new development, new shopping centers. King Soopers was always what would be called the anchor tenant that developed and then brought other development with it. That's what the National Western is here. It is the anchor tenant that will help us not in the next 5 to 10 years, but 50 to 100 years. And I truly believe that, and I'm truly respectful of the goals and where we're headed now. I did have the opportunity to serve on the Denver City Council in a large position. Actually, you mentioned Tom and Christy Vilsack. One of my iterations was with Principal Financial Group, and I worked with him when he was Governor Vilsack, and we did a lot of work there, so I'm really happy to see that they're coming on board, going to be able to help us out. I am really a individual who grew up in and around Globeville. My grandparents lived on 45th and Sherman. They are buried at Riverside Cemetery right now. My children went to Garden Place Academy. So I've spent a lot of it, my kids are in their 20s and 30s, so this was a while ago. Debbie and I, when we served on the council together, spent a lot of time trying to determine how we could do more for these communities, and I'm so glad to see that, that better late than never, that we're seeing the kind of work that's being done now. I am just so pleased to be able to be a part of it and work with the community to make that happen. So I've got a lot of public finance background, community and housing finance. I spent the last 20 years doing affordable housing, working in housing finance with organizations like Wells Fargo, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. One of the things that I really hope to bring to the equation is how we can help with affordable housing back into these communities, and working with the teams that we have out there and the HOPE team, others. I think that we've got some things that we can do that can really be helpful in those regards. Those are my ramblings after 4 days. Probably 6 months from now, check back with me. I may have a different thing to say. But thank you so much for welcoming me and letting me be a part.
We're going to have a quick update on the Baseline 101 from Patrick.
No,
sorry, I read the wrong arrow. Update on placemaking from Eric and Jay.
Is it, what's, is it? But it's there.
Oh, there it is.
Hi. No.
There we go. Okay. I'm Eric Anderson. I'm the design director for the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, and I'm here to give you a quick update on the campus placemaking project, and also going to introduce a good portion of the MIG team who will be working on the campus placemaking task as we move forward. So, as we go back to the master plan, this is just a quick update. The master plan looked at things at a very high level. So it did set the vision, site organization, circulation, all the right-of-ways, railway location constraints, and then a general program facility for all the facilities that are going to be built. We have a starting point, okay? It's now time to revise that. That's really been the only design work done on this project, and that stopped in 15. We're moving forward now, and campus placemaking is the next step for that. So what we need to do is we want to provide the refined programming and design detail to advance the master plan, right? The whole purpose of this project is to move toward construction. We have got to get things in place that allow us to do things like utilities and road right-of-ways first, so that we can then eventually get to the buildings and the plazas and all the finished components, okay? It's a task order contract. So we've got 4 or 5 task orders that we will issue as we go through the 2-year process. There was an MWBE goal of 24%, and we think 24 to 36 months.
What is that after MWB? What is that again?
Oh, gee.
Minority.
Anybody?
I've never seen this last.
Sorry.
Minority.
Okay. Minority women business. Okay.
Minority Women's Business Enterprise.
Got it.
So anyway, the goal was set at 24%, and this team has met that goal. So the scope elements, through all the task orders, both project management and community engagement will be in every task order. So that during the first task order, we'll set the full community engagement plan, and then each task order will have a varying component of the community engagement based on what the task they're doing. We have built form, campus character, and campus cultural plan. There's a market analysis, the program refinement or programming refinement for all the facilities, public realm study, design standards and guidelines, design review and implementation strategy, and then 15 and 30% infrastructure design, all as part of this contract. So we had a competitive selection process. During the RFQ, we received 7 proposals. Ian Hayes was on the selection committee. We shortlisted 4 proposals, and it was R&L, Norris Design, MIG, and Civitas were the 4. And then their RFP response, they had a written proposal, cost proposal, and then an interview. So selected team was MIG. Welcome. These are all their team members, and Jay will talk a little bit more about the full team. But they are on board, and as Kelly mentioned earlier, they are under contract. We are now finalizing task order 1, and we'll get them going on that. So the tentative project schedule, we'll hope to have everybody on board by mid-July. So program refinement is the first task that they will be doing, and that's, again, right-sizing all buildings. 15% infrastructure design will be the next task. Then the public realm component, and a lot of these will be overlapping. You don't finish one and you go to the next. A lot of these will be going all at the same time. So there'll be lots to talk about at these meetings. And then when we get to 30% infrastructure and the standards and guidelines, we haven't set those schedules yet. Okay? So those are the main components of the scope. So task order 1, here's what's in that. First, the project management and the public engagement plan. And then program refinement, and this program refinement is for phases 1 and 2, all right? So basically all the land west of the Burlington Northern Tracks. So it's the Livestock Center, the Equestrian Center, and the stockyards, the riverfront. Those are the main components in phases 1 and 2. So they're going to do the program refinement for those elements, all right? And then with that is a market study and analysis. We have to understand if there is a market, make sure we can support all these facilities. And then we'll finalize all the facility needs with all the stakeholders. And then also look at events and activation strategies for all the public spaces. And then the last piece of this is the evaluation of build form, campus character, and campus cultural plan. And this looks at all the historic documentation, creating a catalog of historic features so that as the design moves forward, we know what pieces of the historic components we want to save. Obviously, the main buildings we want to save, the older ones. But there are a lot of things in the yards or associated with the railroads that we may want to reuse as part of the design. So we want to catalog all those things. Then the campus cultural plan is a plan that looks at the historic, art, spoken word, the West. All these components come together so that we can actually get a definition of what this place really is. And when we talk about the West at National Western, what does that really mean? And so we'll work also with the branding component of this to kind of help influence that. And then lastly, we have a campus character. And the campus character was looked at roughly in the master plan. We kind of had 3 different areas. This study will then refine those components. So these are just some of the topics that may happen at future CAC meetings. The schedule, we'll put out a schedule for how we are going to move this forward. This is flexible, but kind of the next either July or August meeting, we really want to get into what placemaking is. How do we really activate this place? And Jay will talk a little bit about that tonight. We want to talk a little bit about the history and the relationships of the neighborhood. We'll talk about the catalog, programming events, and then future programming and events. Again, we have to have an understanding of what all these things are so that we can plan for the size and the activities. And then in the campus cultural plan, it's identifying the stories about the place and the story we tell here. And then the campus character areas and themes. And then opportunities to tell the stories. How do we show this in this placemaking plan? And then even more exciting, and Jamie will like this, is the site infrastructure. We'll be talking a lot about infrastructure because we've got to get everything in place so that we have the backbone to build everything. Okay? So these are some of the topics that will take us probably through February or March. There will be more as we move along. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce Jay Rakins and the MIG team. We are very happy to have them on board. We're excited to get going. we're really looking forward to it. So, Jay, here you go.
Thank you, Eric. We're extremely excited as well. And as Eric gets us queued up, I'm going to present just a few slides, and then I'll introduce several of our team members that are here with us this evening as well. He's good. So one of the things that you all know about the master plan and all the work that you've been doing since is this idea of regeneration. And regeneration obviously focuses on sort of the environmental components, which are really key. Thinking about, can we create a net zero campus potentially? What are the ways that we can do things like Kelly was talking about with recapturing heat from the Doug Gainey interceptor and whatnot. But we wanted to think actually about regeneration in a broader sort of consideration, in a broader way. And it was really key to our approach as we talked about forming a team, who did we want to work with, and also in simply responding to the RFP, and kind of putting together what we thought was the best way to approach this work, not only in task order 1, but in future task orders. So as we started to think about regeneration, we were thinking about reimagining the stock show experience for exhibitors and visitors and the people dedicated to operating and maintaining the facility each and every day. We were thinking about remembering and celebrating the historic and cultural foundation that makes the site and its programs so rich. Regeneration to us means restitching the campus into the surrounding neighborhood and looking for opportunities to do that in a variety of ways. And reclaiming the environmental assets and integrity of the site. How can we better, sort of let the river breathe, connect to those pieces, begin to overcome some of the infrastructure that has really separated and segregated us for a long time. And thinking about redefining agriculture and food systems in Colorado and for the entire globe. And really reframing the campus experience with an increased connectivity and a renewed sense of place. So we put together this team. It's pretty large. You can see here, these are the logos of all the different team members. But it's because it's really complex, what we're tackling here. So Eric talked about the different aspects of the project. And I'll touch on a few of these, and then I'll let you know who's in the room with us today. So maybe I'll touch on the folks who aren't here first. Well, CIG is represented, actually. But CIG is on the team helping with the communications component. GH2 is a specialist in equine architecture and really helping to reframe or sort of narrow in on that program, as Eric was talking about. HR&A advisors do economic and market analysis for fairgrounds, for event centers, but also for other uses, thinking about mixed-use campuses, entertainment districts. So we felt that they really brought a unique package of experience. We also have Bullock Smith, similarly to GH2, whereas GH2 has a specialty in equine architecture, Bullock Smith focuses on livestock and the different aspects that are needed for those particular facilities. Johnson Consulting, we actually worked with them when we worked on the campus, or the Colorado Convention Center master plan. And so they do a lot of programming, thinking about competitive analysis and how do we stack up against other facilities that are, sort of programming and looking at similar things. Matrix Design Group, focusing on engineering in this case, but bringing their expertise in other areas as well. Arland, which is a local economics firm. 200, some of you may know for their signage and wayfinding work. 200, we have there on your flex, sorry. And SSG, MIP for the mechanical, electrical engineering. So those folks who are here with us today include myself with MIG, MIG is a planning and design firm. We work nationally. We have an office here in Denver that I oversee. We've done projects like the Downtown Area Plan, the Colorado Convention Center Master Plan, which I mentioned just now. We're doing the blueprint update, actually, the citywide plan. And so we're really excited to be leading this team. We have expertise in all of these different areas that are sort of included in the placemaking study, but we felt it was really important to bring in specialists, both locally and nationally, to tackle some of these topics. So in addition to all those people that I already mentioned here with us, and if you guys can stand up when I call you out, we have Angie Hulsbus, who's a project manager with MIG, so she'll be helping out. She's a landscape designer, great project manager. Cheney Bostic with Studio Insight. Studio Insight is going to be a great partner on the placemaking, on the design. They've done fantastic work here in Colorado, in Denver proper. 14th Street you may be familiar with, the Ambassador Street, Anschutz campus, some others. Julie Husband with Winter & Company. Winter & Company, in addition to doing great architecture and sort of planning and design, they are going to be our historic specialists, so looking at and helping to inform that cultural plan, and eventually the design guidelines on that front as well. Lisa Zoller with Zoller Consulting, assisting with the community outreach, and Beth Vogelzang and Chris Vogelzang with OB Consulting, who you probably know from the parking and TDM study that's being done currently, but they'll be helping with transportation, some outreach as well, and looking at integrated green infrastructure on the campus. So placemaking, why placemaking? Why does it matter? Why don't we just figure out where those roads go and get them built so that we can move forward with the vertical construction? That's obviously a really key piece of what we're doing, but you know, placemaking has become kind of this buzzword, similar to sustainability, livability. So what does it mean to our team? We thought a lot about it, and for this particular effort, we think it really starts with the people. Why do you create a place? Why do we create a campus? And it's going to be to facilitate the activities, interactions of people, and the things that we want to do to better our society. The land, thinking about the natural systems, how do we use that land in the best way possible, architecture, the context that we're working within these great neighborhoods, and ultimately the environment. And placemaking is about the storytelling. It was great that we were talking about the branding tonight, at least the start of that, because this is going to be one of the ways that we express that brand each and every day, is through the sense of place that we create. In a way that is really authentic, in a way that is adaptive to the context, adaptive to the learning and technology that will just continue to grow and advance on this campus, adaptive to commerce and business. And there's also these social benefits of placemaking. And success will mean creating a dynamic place that the community, visitors, and the private sector want to be part of. Programming, culture, and character can significantly increase the activation and associated interest in this place, in this campus. And so the first task order will be critical to help to make the existing tapestry even richer by evaluating adjacencies, the market, and aligning development opportunities and those interstitial spaces with the collective vision. So throughout all the tasks, we'll be engaging the target audiences that were talked about during the branding study presentation earlier. So thinking about the local context and how do we really engage people of all ages, all interests, all backgrounds. The regional context, people are drawn here in those audiences that we want to engage even further. Thinking nationally and internationally, how are we going to engage those folks? Not only in this first task order, which is about the cultural study, about the programming and refining that, but as we move forward into infrastructure design, into the placemaking framework, and into the design guidelines ultimately. So I'll leave you with this idea that we had to sort of broaden this definition of place even further for the original tasks of Task Order 1. So looking across there, there's things that are really important about accountability, about collaboration, about learning, that this is a two-way street, that one of the things that I think probably made us attractive as a team is that we want to be really collaborative with you and with the community moving forward. And we're not going to come in with presupposed notions about what this place should be and what the different elements are. So that's going to be important in sustaining that authenticity, really celebrating the culture and expressing ultimately the place that we want to do common. So that's all I had prepared for this evening. I think myself and the team can answer any questions. Eric may be able to answer some questions as well, but happy to do so. And really excited to be part of this process.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, really? No question? I am confused.
Stop. You're banned. We're going to go to what did we just, Patrick, the baseline. My schedule got completely turned around some kind of way.
We did move it on you. And nothing like a riveting discussion of program baseline at the end of an evening meeting. So Kelly kind of saved us from that being the last item. You can do that. Go after. So again, I'm Patrick O'Keefe. I'm the program manager for the capital build of the National Western Center. And we made a slide that you can't read. So I'm going to tell you what's on it. We're going to use some terms as we go forward with the capital build that some of you may be familiar with, some may not. One of the key ones is the program baseline book. And this is the official document of record for our scope, schedule, and budget for the program. And this is it. There's no other one. There's no side one. There's no backup one. There's no contingency one. This is the one that we align all the work to and ultimately align it to a schedule and a budget. It is the single document that we use for all changes. So in a second, I'll give an example of that from Delgany about how those changes work through the document. But really the detail, it is for every work breakdown structure item, or WBS, and that would be, an example that would be the new stockyards. That's a single project on the program, but it is interrelated to the roads around it, the utilities that feed it, right? But the discrete project is the stockyards, or the riverfront open space. They're all interrelated, and that's the art of the program book. So it takes each item and assigns a scope, that's what you're going to build, and right now we're at a high-level development. But the scope goes down to the outlets and the light switches. It is really a detailed assessment of what we're going to build. Or in the case of infrastructure, what we're going to do. So environmental remediation to whatever level, utilities buried to whatever location. The schedule is when we're going to do it. And this is a flow across time on all the projects. Some will be going at the same time. Some are contingent on other ones being done. So you can't build the new stockyards until you open up the west side of the site with some demolition and preparation. And the final piece is the budget, and that is just how much you have to spend for the project. And so that's assigned across all the cost items, and it includes all the contingency that you'd have with it, and escalation since we're building this over time. So we account for an inflation cost, and so there's no surprises in that. So how is this document used? First of all, it's transparent and trackable data. So there are multiple levels of reporting on this, but it's designed for the client, in this case, the equity partners, Western Stock Show Association, CSU, and the City and County of Denver, its taxpayers, to be able to track how we're doing against the scope or the schedule and the cost that we laid out, the budget that we laid out. It informs procurements, so there's some procurements that the baseline book may tell you to break up and do in smaller chunks because it's more advantageous. There are some where you may be able to move faster or deliver more value if you group them together. It highlights the risks and opportunities, so there's no hiding from things that are on the critical path for your schedule, and those things that allow you to move to the next stage. There's a documented process whenever we change anything, so you can't just decide to move a road without evaluating the other related impacts. Is the road longer? Will it take more concrete? Does it take more earth movement? Does it take less earth movement? All those things are accounted and they flow through the entire the entire program baseline book. And and that kind of positive, negative assessment plays out. And just an example, so talking about Delgany tonight, the Delgany interceptor relocation would be a move and burial under the kind of preferred alternative. And then, however, against the baseline book, it's not that simple, right? So it may take less fill to do that than burying in place. That's a give back. It may shorten your bridge spans because you're not going over the Delgany interceptor anymore. But it also has burial costs. And so all those are counted against each other and the schedule, and it gives you a change that you can assess. So it's not just taking Delgany interceptor, what will it cost to bury it? What are all the ancillary benefits and costs that might come with that? And so when we come forward in the next few months, we'll have the actual program baseline, and that'll allow you to start to see when we're doing things and the various scope and budgets associated with it. So, Kelly, you want to do questions on baseline 101, or do you want to talk about framework first? Okay. Anything? You're all.
Mickey.
You mentioned all the people who would be utilizing the baseline book. You did mention this group, and most of the groups that you mentioned have a certain amount of technical knowledge. It would be extremely helpful if we could have some form of that book that we could look at and know the larger issues, because I'm not sure we'll understand that.
That's a great question, and I'm sorry for not saying it. The program manager's baseline book has loads of cost information in it, right? You wouldn't want that out in the contractor community before you issue the procurement, so they know your costs. We always produce a public version that pulls out the kind of proprietary things to the program. That will be available. It's very readable, very usable. It's still a detailed enough document, so it's not like we're going to build the stockyards next item. So it is very trackable, and really all that we pull out of those things that have commercial impacts, and that'll be available, to all members of the public.
It sounds like a great comprehensive system. When you will use Delgany again as an example, when you do a comparison of the main area, moving it, it'll give you cost estimates, time estimates, impacts to other projects and timelines that could be impacted up slow other projects. Right. All of that type of data can be there.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and this is best practice. You can get by at individual projects. If you're building 4 walls in a parking lot, you kind of have a contractor that's effectively your program manager, and they're running a plan not dissimilar to this. But a program look is at a slightly higher level, and it does look at the kind of intertwining decisions of adding scope in one location and what you might be able to trade off. And we allocate contingency at the project level and also at the program level. And there's very stringent guidelines on how that's used, but it gives a line of sight across all of that. And projects that go poorly generally either had one of these and they didn't follow it, or they did not do that pre-plan.
The what-if scenarios, things like these. I kind of wish we could have taken this back when we wrote DIA, but I shouldn't say that. DIA is one of them. This kind of detail we didn't have then to have.
And the other benefit with schedule, and it's not just about us, it allows members of the public to know when things are going to happen, and that's so you can participate as a member of the workforce. If you have a small business, you'll know when we need piping, right? May not be the first year, maybe the third year. Well, there's no sense of you staffing up right now for that, but you can see that coming in. If you're in a surrounding community like everybody is here, you know what the schedule is of when we're planning to do things. So there's a transparency beyond just what we're building for that.
If I can add, that really gets to the workforce piece. We're not the only project going on. We have to be a very large one. But obviously, if you think about what's going on in the Front Range in particular, massive issues around enough skilled labor. Obviously, we're going to address helping try to build the pipeline. But one of the things that will come out of this as we build our schedule is a procurement strategy, which is all about how you deliver, right? And each procurement strategy has a slightly different impact on the labor force, when labor comes in, how it's phased, how it's sequenced. And so one of the commitments we made to the contracting community in particular is once we lay out a preferred procurement schedule, which is based on our master schedule, we're going to go back to them over the course of this summer and engage small, medium, and large contractors, the associations, and make sure, A, we're not missing something. We want them to poke holes in this, because this is if we make the wrong choice or implement the wrong procurement strategy, it will have massive impacts on schedule, our budget, and our ability to deliver. So, we're talking about, I had a great conversation with the Associated General Contractors about what if we were to start to build kind of pooled labor, skilled labor, about you're creating a pipeline of opportunities for folks to grow from an entry level all the way to becoming their own project manager. And I think we're in a really unique space with all these projects over the, let's say, next decade, to do things that other cities just can't do.
I love it, just to let you know, that being that far in advance also helps us with workforce development. Because there are going to be a lot of places where we're going to be more trained labor than we got. So the development of that labor certainly from communities, people adjacent. I really like this experience. That's great.
Susan.
So Kelly, like you were just talking about the building of the pool of skilled labor. So are the costs of that delineated in the program book and scope of services? So if you need to be investing some of these monies in workforce programs, how is that reflected in this?
So some of the answer is in some ways yes. So there are some contributions the program can make to making sure there's workforce development. That is not our remit as the capital build program, and we are not a training program in general, but to be able to deliver this and all the other benefits that are beyond the capital build, that you'll see some things that we'll do to build training centers that will facilitate that, and those benefits will long last this project.
And those will be in this project. So I'm thinking of like on the CDOT end of it.
Yeah.
So what they're just doing now with setting up a training center at the Anderson, and the costs associated with that would be in this.
So we are partnering with them. That announcement's going to happen this next week. We're partnering with CDOT on that training center. The project is the National Western Project. And certainly we are going to make some contribution, but where you will see, as we start to roll out these procurements to the private sector, we're going to build into those procurement documents certain expectations for those contractors to participate across the spectrum of, it could be in-kind services at the center, it could be actually dollars for apprenticeships or mentorships, work study. So we're going to start to build procurement documents that tap into the private sector, which are the ones that ultimately need the workforce. We're going to create the vehicle by which that happens by partnering with the large institutional partners like CDOT and others. And then we will, look, this is a problem for the private sector. They need to be a partner with us, but we're going to use our tools to get them to play with us.
Because I'm most familiar with the CDOT project and how they've done it. And so they have, kind of the procurement way, but then they also have the things they invested CDOT dollars into. And that's what I think we would want.
There will be some dollars from the program and at the project level that will go towards those goals.
And just to add, what we've heard from Denver Public Schools, Emily Griffith, and the universities is if you can tell people far enough in advance what will be available, they can start communicating to the students or the workers in training programs or professional training programs and start to get them ready. And so, lining this schedule out against, this is a multi-year program. There's a kid that could be not in a Denver high school right now that is working after high school on this program, and that's the communication that we're committed to too.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to Kelly for a very brief presentation on, because there's nothing agreed to completely yet.
All right, well, I will go relatively fast because a lot of what I'm going to present here is really, the first part is about really a refresh of what got us to where we are today in 2017, so I'm going to go backwards in time a little bit to go starting in 2012. The building blocks of getting to what we're calling our framework agreement, which is the agreement between the city, the Western Stock Show Association, and Colorado State University. And then Will's going to come up, and you're actually going to get a preview tonight of a component idea part that's going to be in the framework agreement, of which all the partners are very supportive of. Oops, sorry. So again, what I'm about to show you, and my branding folks, and I'm sure Erica and Marcy are about ready to kill me because I'm showing an old version of how we used to show this project on this slide deck, but I wanted to be true to what we showed in 2015, leading into the 2C vote. So November of 2015, 2C was when we went to the voters. So in October, we did a series of public presentations that has a lot of the material you're going to see tonight, and then I did a refresh on where we're going for 2017 and beyond. So many of you've all seen these slides, but this is our building blocks for program governance. So it goes back to 2012 again, when the decision was made by the city and the stock show to stay in Denver. And what came out of that was a business plan from the stock show and then an evaluation by Denver Urban Renewal Authority called the Dura Report, of which you'll see the guiding principles that came out of that. Then that led to the Memorandum of Understanding that we signed in the summer of 13 between the five founding partners. We had a project leadership committee within the city and the partners to help advance the master plan, and you all played a huge role in helping us get that plan adopted. We had the Executive Oversight Committee, which is in place now. The mayor put that in place until such time that the public authority has stood up. You can see the list of things that has transpired since 2015, and then the goal or intent is to stand up the public authority in 2018. So you're going to get copies of this. Liz is going to send them out, but I'm going to just go through these pretty quickly. But this first one were the guiding principles that the mayor put in place as part of the Dura Report that said, here's from the city's perspective what's important to us as a city. And again, you can read these, but it really laid out the building blocks for the later work that we did together. Once one of the first things I was involved in was the creation of the Memorandum of Understanding. It was signed in the summer of 2013, and again, it was CSU, the city, Western Stock Show Association, Denver Museum of Nature and Science History, Colorado. We had this idea of shared intent around certain things to say, we haven't even started the process yet, but what we're going to do is agree to work together and advance these ideas of not only changing the place physically, but forming a new partnership to move the project forward. As part of helping us get to an adopted master plan, we did what was called affectionately the SAG report. There was a firm hired out of Atlanta that helped us think about, and we partnered with the convention center on this, how do you think in a more macro level about the building blocks for a dynamic Denver for the future? What are the things we need to have in place for the convention center or for the National Western Center? And the report kind of identified two things. One, specific objectives around how we collaborate across public facilities. And then the lower portion was really about starting to lay out some best practices relative to governance of this very unique campus that we were going to create together. You have all been, and I was just reminiscing about this, the Stock Show founded the Citizens Advisory Committee back in middle of 13, and I think we officially got it going in the fall of 15. And this core group of folks that are sitting around this table, you have been with us from day one since we worked through this process, and all of you, or the majority of you, are still here, but you've played a really important role in helping us move this project forward, and you will continue to play an important role as we advance the project going forward. The mayor, in order to get to the master plan, we set up an internal working group within the city because all the city agencies had to be a part of helping us advance the plan at a master planning level so that we could start to think about all the different things from a regulatory perspective would ultimately need to be done. And so here's the list of folks that were involved internally, many of the head appointees of Public Works and CPD, as well as our partners were involved in helping us along with you in getting to the adopted master plan. Since we needed to advance the master plan, the mayor stood up, as you all know, the Executive Oversight Committee. There are 9 members. The 9 members are listed here. Anna is still listed here, so now Tim, your name actually goes into the Executive Oversight Committee representing the NWCC. But this is the group that has helped move the plan forward until such time that we have a formal public authority in place, again with the goal of that standing up in 2018. So this was, I think, the second to the final slide in 15. So we talked with council and the public about the end result here was standing up a public authority. This is a very unique place we're creating with multiple partners, multiple streams of funding, and the idea of creating this public authority was outlined by multiple groups as a recommended approach. And so this was a slide that started to talk about that as an example, the mayor would play a key role in appointing members of the authority. That the timing of how often they met would be defined later on, that the authority would be subject to open records and open meetings, starting to lay the groundwork for what an authority could be. Then the last kind of non-binding thing we did in 15 was we set up a term sheet. That was an important part of, again, getting, I think, to a public vote, of starting to lay out how the partners were going to work together. These are some of the component parts of the term sheet were around defining the roles of the partners, how long would the agreement be, how would project funds from each of the partners start to flow, who would own the facilities, what would the rules of transparency be, how would social ordinances for the city fit in. So it just started to lay out the building blocks again for how these 3 partners would ultimately come together. And then this was the final slide that we showed in 15, which really said, what are the next steps for all of us? So again, the mayor stood up the Executive Oversight Committee. We started to outline, coming out of 15, with the creation of the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, the things we need to focus on to prepare the site. So obviously we continue to be focused on land acquisition, preparing for site remediation, demolition, those sorts of things. And that's been our big focus since we opened the office. And then starting to think about how we issue the first fund. So the Department of Finance did that. We issued the first round of money in April of 16 that we've been using to fund the project to date. And again, this is where we ended. Now I'm going to go to the framework agreement, which is what's going to come before the public here soon. And this is the first binding legal agreement between the parties. We've been operating on non-binding agreements up to this point, but now it's time to formalize the relationship. So these are some of the key sections that will be in the ultimate agreement. Again, defining terms, what's the length of the relationship, what's the form and formation and the powers of the public authority. There's a whole bunch of compliance we have to do around the Regional Tourism Act and House Bill 1344. We actually had our first report out to the state on the RTA here a couple weeks ago. The agreement will talk about initial contributions and when those contributions come in. Initial campus development is about the schedule of the project. Intellectual property, as we start to innovate on the site, there's a big issue around who owns the intellectual property as ideas start to emerge from the campus. Naming and sponsorship rights, a campus foundation, community investment fund, which again Will's going to talk about in a second. So these are some of the component sections of the agreement that you'll see when we issue the agreement for you guys to help us review. Here's the proposed schedule, and I will tell you this has changed every day over the last couple of weeks, and it's going to continue to change. But here's as of today what we're thinking is that we would hold a special meeting for the CAC on August 3rd. We are going to hand to you and bring to you a binder with the framework agreement and all the documents, and each of the voting members of the committee are going to be given a binder. And we're going to spend that day or that evening walking you through the agreement, answering some basic questions, and getting you grounded in the agreement. Then on November 7th, this is where we start the city process. We would submit a request for an ordinance on the 7th. That's when the documents become public to the general public. So you guys are our commitment's always been you see them first, so you will see them first. And then Gretchen and I and the team have talked about having office hours, maybe at the library or here, where for 3 days we'll make ourselves available to answer questions about the agreements. And we'll work with you guys to determine what the best times are. Then we would go to LUDI, which is Land Use Transportation Infrastructure, on the 15th, Mayor Council on the 22nd. The 24th, we would actually submit the ordinance, file the ordinance, first reading on the 29th, and then on September 11th would be the second reading. So that would complete the approval, assuming the schedule holds. And look, there's a lot of moving parts that have to happen in July for the schedule to hold. And what will happen is if we're not able to get some fundamental things done here in July, the schedule will push a month. Basically a month from what, so you'd see a September schedule for council. And the other part that will come to you with the framework agreement is the baseline schedule, because there are dates that are going to be in the agreement that talk about certain things happening, and that's tied to the baseline schedule. So we will issue the baseline schedule as part of the framework agreement package. And once this is approved, about a couple weeks later, we will issue the balance of the baseline book. So that would be scope and budget. And that essentially completes the legal binding document that starts to allow us to lock in the receipt of funds and the timing of those funds and the transfer of land from the stock show to the city so the project can formally commence, as well as the baseline book around what our public schedule is, what our budget is, and what we're going to ultimately build in phases 1 and 2. So the framework agreement has to go first before we can finish the baseline book. Okay, now what I'd like to do, if it's okay, if you could hold your questions, and have Will come up, walk through the Community Investment Fund, and then we'll answer questions, because they go together.
Hi everyone, my name is Will Chan. I'm the Director of Economic Mobility. I'm also the person standing between you and freedom, so I apologize and I'll go fast.
Wow.
Screen right next to your slide on the bottom.
It'll come back.
So I'm going to actually make this an abridged version. So as Kelly mentioned earlier, part of our commitment is really to present you guys information first and foremost. So part of the framework agreement, we've added language about the Community Investment Fund. Do you want to talk about the benefits?
No, go ahead. So let me just say while he's going to the slide. So one of the things I've heard loud and clear from almost everyone in this committee is how does the community directly benefit in the creation of the place, right? And there's a lot of ways that the place can help support community objectives. So we just talked about workforce development as one example, and we're very committed. We're working with Ortega and Albus and others to make that a reality. Another is, at the end of the day, flow of funds or the ability to create funds for the interests of the community through a community-driven process that's led by the community is another way we can contribute to trying to meet your long-term goals. And we've heard, I think about Garden Place and some of the funding for Garden Place or other interests or needs that the community might have. This is another component part of how we're trying to address what we've heard from you loud and clear about how can this campus be a contributor back to the neighborhoods since you're here and they have to coexist in a way that benefits all parties. So this is something that we thought a lot about in terms of this idea of community investment. It's not a new idea, and we'll share with you some examples, but it's trying to answer the question of how do you benefit from this campus. It's not the only way, but it's one way.
So there's a lot of different approaches for the Community Investment Fund. What's really interesting for us is the approach that the community and the authority will create together in how they implement this fund moving forward. So So really tonight, I'm just going to introduce thoughts for you guys to consider, different approaches, different examples of how this fund could look like once the authority comes into place and once the community bands together to figure out how you prioritize what you want to use this fund for. So with the Roundup program, this is how we're going to generate revenue for this fund. So vendors and concessionaires on the Stock Show campus will allow participants and people coming in from the community to participate in a Roundup program. Roundup programs are usually tied with for-profit organizations, with a 501c3 arm, foundation arm, that really has really targeted, mission-driven deliverables. And so Boys and Girls Club of America has programming, people that go to Taco Bell and participate in the Roundup. They can give money back to high school graduation, increase high school graduation rates, college readiness programs, Firehouse Subs, Public Safety Foundation, their funds. If you go and buy a sub and you participate in the Roundup, it goes back to providing resources for fire safety and resources on education on those resources. Goodwill supports teens and career readiness. And so this is the approach that we're thinking about for the Roundup and the funds coming in. The approaches, I'm going to lay out 3 different approaches really quickly of community investment funds. Again, these are all considerations. These are things that are in action right now and just models that are in existence that you guys can consider moving forward. So this was created, international model in the UK in Wigan Borough. Their city council basically banded together to prioritize different approaches, how they can work alongside the community to create a fund for the community to prioritize and decide what they want to use it for, to basically deliver their, the deal for the future, their 5-year strategic plan to target social problems. Their approach was a 3-pronged approach. They had investment funds that you could apply for, the community could apply for $10,000, $5,000, and $50,000 that were to grow new business, to grow new programs, to promote existing programs and community organizations and businesses, or for a longitudinal program that was in collaboration with their council. The second approach is a state-based approach in Indianapolis, in Indiana. They worked really closely with their state office of tourism and their community and rural affairs department, create a community investment fund that was really based off of the CDFI, and so really targeting low-income businesses and underserved communities through a matching grant program. And so community members could come forward, and then their community investment fund matched whatever the community brought forward for their investments. The third approach is the one that I think is the most appealing, and was started in 2008. Really small collaborative of community members coming together. Started out with about membership of 40 people, and then over the span since 2008 has grown to 600 members coming together, really investing back in their community. And really, they came out with this 2-pronged approach where they wanted to have flexible capital to meet their immediate needs. And then the second was to not reinvent the wheel and collaborate better. There are a lot of community members, a lot of community organizations, so they wanted to have their community investment fund be something that they could use immediately. So where are the funds coming from, and what could this look like for y'all? I think if we take the National Western Stock Show, it's a 16-day event with about 680,000 visitors. If we assume 25% of participants coming in participate in this program, if they give an average of about 34 cents per donation, they'll generate about $58,000. And so it's not like small change. So I think this is a great opportunity to grow. Again, Kelly alluded to the projects that could come out from this. Other projects that have come out, laptops for schools, community land trusts, public art. So you can see the list, and we'll share this with you guys as well. Moving forward, again, this is in the hands of the authority and the community of how the process moves forward. This is just best practice for you all to consider. The authority is going to act as the fiscal agents due to their fiscal fiduciary responsibilities. They're going to collect the funds and promote the funds within the campus, but then how those funds are going to be allocated, how they're prioritized, is going to be the authority working alongside the community to reinvest these funds back into global responsibilities specifically. So the questions that we're going to propose to the group, really for you to consider, is who's going to contribute to the fund, how is it going to be distributed, how to ensure that the community really benefits from this. I'm going really fast, I just want to get everyone out on time. But things to consider for education, outreach, implementation. Just some key deadlines. Tonight we're sharing this as the first of the framework agreements that we're sharing to this group first and foremost. We really want to get your feedback, collect comments. You can send them to my email on the screen by July 17th, and then we can gather them together and provide them in stakeholder briefings moving forward. That's a lot. And only 5 minutes over.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll have some for you, but I'll be tomorrow.
And I want to be clear, this is the, because he did go fast, is the intent is the only role of the authority is to collect the funds. The community will determine through whatever structure is ultimately created, what the fund, one, how you want to organize, and two, how you want to use the funds. So the role of the authority is simply to collect the money, and we would obligate all retail entities within the campus to participate in this program.
There was only 2 days from the time of distributing authority until you had an opportunity to read. It seems like it's a pretty short period of time to really digest.
Well, you actually, so that's a great question. So did everybody hear the question? Mickey said you only had, from the date that we would be handing you the document to provide feedback, it's actually much longer because it becomes available to the general public on the 7th. Okay, that's when we file the ordinance request. So you have an entire week before it goes, or 4 days before it goes to the general public. The second is it doesn't go to Ludi until the 15th. So that's one of the reasons we're proposing providing office hours. So again, we'll work with you guys to determine what the right times are, but we will make our legal teams available, our staff available, probably representatives from the partners, give you guys some time to digest the document, and then for us to help answer questions you may have. And then you're going to have the typical public process of engaging council representatives through that formal public process that ultimately leads to approval. So it's actually, you're getting a running head start, not just a head start, but a running head start. And that's why we want to call a special meeting, hand you the book, and actually spend some time that evening walking you through what's in the book, how we organized it, answer some early questions. There'll be an executive summary of the agreement. But we want to make sure when you leave that night, assuming that's the approach we take, the special meeting, is you walk out and feel like, okay, I know what I want to focus in on. Because a lot of the document are exhibits that just support the core document.
So it won't be like a Trump healthcare approach.
It will not. This would be on the other end of the spectrum.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Would we have, would this email, just add it on the slide?
Yep.
Would that be in the minutes that come out?
Yeah, I'll also try, I have a couple of things on my list, and I'll try to send some out tomorrow or Monday with the information.
Thank you.
Okay?
And I want to, I only showed 3 days, but if we need to take the entire week, I mean, part of this is going to be based on, I'll ask for some feedback the night we hand the documents out, but you're going to get the same binder that the city council members are going to get, that the board of governors for CSU are going to get, that the board for the WSSA board. So you're getting the same documents that the other principals are getting for their review.
Can I ask just one quick question? I've had the chance to be involved in creating 2 authorities, University of Colorado, Denver Health, and I'm late to the part of it. I'd like to take a look at some of those documents and have them later, because I think there might be some things that I might be able to add.
Sure, absolutely. And we actually, one of the foundational documents, there was actually some work done by Kaplan's from one of the local law firms that actually looked, there's a whole book that they looked at probably 20 or 30 different authorities, not just locally, but nationally. And from that built some best practices around different sorts of authorities, what works and what doesn't. So we can also talk about that with you, Tim, and the group of how we ultimately got to the structure we're going to propose as part of the agreement.
Yeah, I just want to catch up because
They're fine, everybody here knows
I
more.
mean, the goal out of this is to make this is a lot to digest, and our goal is to make it as simple as we can and supportive as we can, because we're in it every day and we're still, kind of working through the documents ourselves.
AE.
I have a question. I think this is something you talked about. The intellectual property part of this, I would request some more exploration of that along the lines of, can there be a revenue sharing potential? I've seen some interesting models. Some of it has been at universities, and some of it has been at different incubator places, where licensing fees or publication sales or patent equity can become part of the wealth of the adjacent populations. So I would just ask, and this is a legal quarantine, so I would just request that be on the table. Where are you the point person with the attorneys? That's going to have to go be vetted in the whole intellectual property thing. So how can you put that on?
So the first thing is, I would say, let's get the documents in your hands and read it. I think that's a great example of the sorts of feedback we want to reflect the ultimate documents. How that all plays out, there are very legal benchmarking sort of things tied to intellectual property, but some of the examples you provide are exactly the sort of things we want to hear from you about how we make it better.
And that's separate even from the 501c3. That has
Completely separate.
Agreements with the partners and the best of the partnership. I appreciate what you're saying, and I'd love it to be part of the conversation even before we see the document.
It won't be meaningful unless you see the document, because all of it has to work together.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I just want to, it's an old speaker's trick. I just want to bring to your attention two documents or handouts in front of you for you to take away. There's an event on Thursday, July 6th at 2 p.m. at the Neighborhood Career and Training Resource Center.
The new training center.
Which is the new training center, because it looks new. It's
an old building, but it's a new place.
It's a new training center to talk about the new training center and how it's going to provide construction training and career support to local residents. And then on Wednesday, July 12th, between 6 and 7:30 p.m. at the Colorado Miners Community Center up at 48th and Race, there's going to be an open house to review the revised plans for the National Western Center segment of the Brighton Boulevard reconstruction from 44th to Race Court. So, as we say in the church, please govern yourselves accordingly and have a good night.